He walked into the hospital asking for help. The doors closed behind him, and they never planned to open them again. But before we proceed, don't forget to subscribe for more chilling tales. Drop your location in the comments. We want to know where you're listening from. This is Silence After the Screams, your weekly dose of spine and chilling true crime. Like and subscribe so you never miss what's coming next. People often imagine danger as something loud, something obvious, something that announces itself. This place did not. From the outside, Ravenscroft Medical Facility looked almost comforting. Red brick walls softened by age, tall windows catching the light, trees lining the long road that led up to its gates. It was the kind of place families drove toward with hope still intact, telling themselves this was the turning point, the place where things would finally get better. That is what Elijah Ward believed when he arrived. He was 26 years old, exhausted, and afraid of his own mind. Years of untreated trauma had worn him down slowly, quietly, until he could no longer tell where his thoughts ended and his fear began. He did not come to Ravenscroft because he wanted to disappear. He came because he wanted help. He signed the papers himself. That detail would matter later. The intake nurse smiled as she guided him through the front doors, speaking in a calm, rehearsed tone that suggested safety and professionalism. She explained the rules gently, emphasizing structure, care, and recovery. Elijah nodded along, gripping the strap of his bag, trying to steady the tightness in his chest. He told himself this was temporary. He told himself this was the right decision. The doors closed behind him with a soft, controlled click. No one reacted. That should have been the first warning. Ravenscroft ran on routine. Every hour accounted for, every movement logged, every patient reduced to a schedule. On paper, it looked efficient, responsible, necessary. In practice, it felt suffocating. Elijah's days quickly fell into a rhythm that left little room for individuality. Wake-up calls before dawn, medication rounds delivered without explanation, therapy sessions that felt less like conversations and more like interrogations disguised as care. The staff spoke often about compliance. Compliance meant progress. Progress meant privileges. Privileges meant hope. Elijah learned quickly that asking questions slowed things down. When he asked why his medication dosage changed without discussion, the answer was always vague. When he asked how long he would be staying, the response shifted from specific to uncertain to noncommittal. "We'll see how you do," they said. It sounded reasonable. It felt endless. Around him were others like him, men and women from different walks of life, all drawn here by the promise of help. Some were loud with distress, others withdrawn into silence. A few seemed to have been there so long they no longer spoke about leaving at all. That frightened Elijah more than anything. He noticed how long-term patients moved differently, how their eyes rarely lifted, how their speech carried a careful flatness. They knew the rules too well. They knew what happened when you broke them. At night, when the lights dimmed and the halls fell quiet, Elijah lay awake listening to the sounds of the building. Distant footsteps, keys, doors opening and closing somewhere far away. Always controlled, always deliberate. Dr. Marcus Halloway was introduced as Elijah's primary physician during his first week. He was calm, well-spoken, and unsettlingly composed. He never rushed, never appeared angry, never raised his voice. His authority did not come from force, but from certainty. Halloway spoke as if he already knew Elijah better than Elijah knew himself. "You struggle with trust," he said during their first session, not as a question, but a statement. Elijah nodded cautiously. "That's normal," Halloway continued. "But here, trust is essential. Resistance only delays recovery." The word resistance stuck with Elijah. It implied opposition, conflict, guilt. From that point on, every emotional reaction Elijah had was filtered through Halloway's assessments. Fear became instability. Frustration became aggression. Silence became withdrawal. Everything was documented. Everything was interpreted. And always, the conclusion pointed back to the same place. Extended care. Weeks turned into months. Elijah's privileges came and went unpredictably. One week he was allowed supervised outdoor time. The next, it was revoked without explanation. Group therapy sessions focused less on healing and more on compliance, reinforcing the idea that the system worked and patients needed to adapt. Those who questioned it were labeled disruptive. One patient, Jonah, made the mistake of speaking openly during a session, questioning why certain restraints were used when no one was violent. The room fell silent as staff exchanged looks. Jonah was escorted out. Elijah never saw him again. Staff said Jonah had been transferred. No one explained where. No one asked again. Elijah began keeping his thoughts to himself, nodding when expected, agreeing when necessary. He learned the language of survival inside Ravenscroft, the careful balance between honesty and self-preservation. But something felt wrong. Too many conversations ended abruptly when staff entered the room. Too many patients flinched at the sound of keys. Too many medical decisions were made behind closed doors. And always, the doors closed quietly. The turning point came by accident. One afternoon, Elijah was sent to the administrative wing for an evaluation. While waiting, he noticed a folder left open on a desk across the hall. His name was on it. He did not intend to look, but curiosity overpowered caution. Inside were notes he had never seen, descriptions that did not match his behavior, statements attributed to him that he never made, conclusions drawn from conversations that had never happened. Most disturbing of all was a section labeled risk assessment. It recommended indefinite containment, not treatment, containment. Elijah's hands trembled as he closed the folder, his heart racing. The realization hit him all at once, heavy and undeniable. This place was not preparing him to leave. It was preparing him to stay, forever. Footsteps echoed down the hall. He barely made it back to his seat before a nurse appeared. Her smile unchanged, her eyes sharp. "Everything okay?" she asked. Elijah forced himself to nod. "Yes," he said. But inside, fear began to solidify into something colder, something sharper. That evening, Elijah was scheduled for medication review. He waited in the hallway outside Dr. Holloway's office, watching the clock, counting each second. When his name was finally called, he stepped inside, already rehearsing what he would say. He planned to ask questions. He planned to demand answers. He planned to stay calm. Dr. Holloway listened quietly as Elijah spoke, his expression unreadable. When Elijah finished, there was a long pause. Then Holloway smiled, a small one, almost sympathetic. "Your anxiety is escalating," he said gently. "That's expected when patients fixate on perceived threats." Elijah felt his stomach drop. "I saw my file," he said. Holloway nodded slowly, as if that confirmed something. "That's unfortunate," he replied, "but it also explains a lot." He pressed a button on his desk. The door locked with a soft click. Holloway leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice. "From this point on," he said, "we'll need to increase your supervision." Elijah stood up instinctively, panic flooding his chest. "I want to leave," he said. Holloway's expression never changed. "You can't," he replied calmly. Outside the office, keys turned. Footsteps approached, and Elijah realized, for the first time, that asking for help had brought him somewhere far worse than he ever imagined. After the door locked, everything changed. Not immediately. Ravenscroft was too careful for that, too experienced. Nothing dramatic happened that night. No shouting, no restraints, no visible punishment. Instead, Elijah was returned to his room with quiet efficiency, escorted by 2 staff members who said nothing and avoided eye contact. His evening medication was delivered an hour earlier than usual. He was told it was for stabilization. By morning, his schedule had been rewritten. Group therapy was removed. Outdoor time was suspended. His meals were delivered to his room. A new notation appeared on his chart, visible only when staff thought he wasn't paying attention. Observation level increased. Elijah understood what that meant very quickly. Someone was always watching. Ravenscroft did not break people through force. It did something far more effective. It erased them. Days passed where Elijah spoke to no one except staff. And even those conversations were one-sided. Questions were answered with rehearsed phrases. Concerns were logged, not addressed. Complaints were interpreted as symptoms. The more Elijah insisted he was being treated unfairly, the more the system responded by proving him unstable. Sleep became fragmented. The medication made his thoughts sluggish, his reactions slower. When he struggled to focus during evaluations, the notes reflected cognitive decline. When he became quiet, they documented withdrawal. Every reaction was evidence against him. He began to notice how language worked inside Ravenscroft. Words like care, safety, and support were used constantly, but always to justify restriction. Isolation was rest. Surveillance was protection. Indefinite stay was ongoing assessment. Elijah started writing notes to himself on scraps of paper, hiding them inside the lining of his mattress. Dates, names, moments that felt important. Proof that he was still aware, still thinking, still real. But even that began to feel dangerous. During a supervised hallway walk one afternoon, Elijah crossed paths with Mara, a woman in her late 30s with sharp eyes and a posture that suggested she refused to shrink, no matter how long she had been confined. She looked at him once, briefly. Then she spoke. "They marked you," she said quietly, not breaking stride. Elijah froze. Before he could respond, a staff member cleared their throat sharply, and Mara disappeared down the corridor. That single sentence stayed with him. Later that week, during a group session he was temporarily allowed to attend, Elijah noticed something unsettling. The patients who spoke openly, who challenged staff explanations or questioned rules, all shared the same fate. They vanished. No announcements, no goodbyes. Transferred, staff said. Elijah no longer believed that. Dr. Holloway continued their sessions as if nothing had changed. He spoke gently, always calmly, framing every restriction as a response to Elijah's behavior. He referenced notes Elijah had never seen, incidents Elijah didn't remember, reactions Elijah didn't recognize as his own. "You're struggling to accept help," Holloway said one afternoon. "That resistance is common in patients with insight issues." "I'm not resisting help," Elijah replied carefully. "I'm resisting being trapped." Holloway smiled faintly. "That distinction," he said, "is exactly the problem." Elijah began to understand that Holloway wasn't there to treat him. He was there to justify the system, to translate control into clinical language that no one outside Ravenscroft would question. Every signature Holloway placed on a document extended someone's confinement. Every diagnosis protected the institution, and every patient who objected became further proof of why Ravenscroft needed to exist exactly as it did. The transfer happened without warning. One morning, Elijah was told he was being moved for intensive observation. He was escorted through a section of the facility he had never seen before, past doors that required multiple keys and biometric access. The room they placed him in had no windows. The walls were padded, but not soft. The light overhead stayed on constantly. A camera blinked silently in the corner. "This is temporary," the nurse said, avoiding his eyes. Elijah sat on the bed for hours, time blurring, panic pressing against his chest. When he asked how long he would be there, the answer never changed. As long as necessary. He realized then that Ravenscroft didn't need to punish him. It only needed to wait. Mara reappeared unexpectedly during a supervised therapy session weeks later. She was seated across from Elijah, her expression unreadable. The staff member monitoring them stepped out briefly to answer a call. Mara leaned forward. "They keep recordings," she whispered. "Not for treatment. For protection." Elijah's heart pounded. "Protection from what?" he asked. "From us," she said, "and from the truth." Before Elijah could respond, the staff member returned. Mara leaned back, her expression blank once again. But the seed had been planted. Elijah began to notice patterns he couldn't ignore. Patients labeled high risk never left. Reports sent to external review boards were sanitized, stripped of context. Written in language that suggested professionalism and necessity. Complaints were reframed as symptoms. Family concerns were dismissed as emotional interference. Ravenscroft presented itself as indispensable, and the world believed it. Elijah requested a legal review. The request was logged. Nothing happened. He asked to contact an advocate. He was told it would be considered. Weeks passed. Months. The longer he stayed, the harder it became to prove he didn't belong there. Because the system had documented him into permanence. One night, lying awake under constant light, Elijah made a decision that terrified him more than anything. Ravenscroft had done so far. He would stop fighting openly. He would comply. He would say what they wanted to hear. Not because he believed it, but because survival inside Ravenscroft required invisibility. From that moment on, Elijah became the patient they wanted. Calm, agreeable, grateful. His privileges slowly returned. But something else returned too. Access. And with access came opportunity. Because Elijah now understood something crucial. Ravenscroft wasn't unbreakable. It was just very good at hiding its cracks. Elijah learned quickly that obedience was a performance. He smiled when spoken to. He thanked staff for medication. He described progress in language that mirrored their own reports. He spoke about acceptance, about understanding his condition, about learning patience. Every word was chosen carefully, and it worked. The cameras watched him less closely. The doors unlocked more often. He was allowed back into group sessions, then eventually into administrative corridors under supervision. The same hallways that once felt forbidden now became familiar. Ravenscroft relaxed its grip just enough to make a mistake. Elijah discovered that the institution relied on routine as much as it relied on control. Paperwork piled up. Digital logs were copied and archived with mechanical efficiency. No one expected patients to notice patterns, much less exploit them. During a supervised work assignment in the records wing, Elijah noticed a terminal left unlocked. It was only for a moment, only a glance, but it was enough. Patient histories showed discrepancies between internal notes and external reports. Risk assessments rewritten before being sent out. Incident logs softened, edited, or removed entirely. Audio recordings flagged as non-essential were stored separately, never reviewed unless required. Mara had been telling the truth. Ravenscroft wasn't just treating patients. It was protecting itself. Elijah began memorizing file names, dates, codes. He knew he couldn't remove anything physically. That would be noticed immediately. Instead, he focused on retention, building a mental map of where the truth was buried. He needed help from outside, and that was the most dangerous thing he could attempt. Contacting the outside world required permission, so Elijah didn't ask. He waited. A scheduled family outreach program brought volunteers into Ravenscroft once a month. People with limited access, brief interactions, and little understanding of what they were seeing. During one of these sessions, Elijah made his move. He slipped a folded note into a donated book as it was being returned. The message was short. Names, dates, one sentence written carefully, deliberately. Please do not trust the reports. Ask for the recordings. Days passed. Nothing happened. Then weeks. Elijah assumed the note had been discarded, unread, lost to routine. Until Dr. Holloway's demeanor changed. Holloway summoned Elijah without explanation. The office felt smaller than it had before. The air heavier. Holloway's calm, once comforting, now felt rehearsed in a different way. "You've been very cooperative lately," Holloway said. "That's good." Elijah nodded. "But cooperation," Holloway continued, "can also be manipulation." The word hung between them. Holloway leaned back in his chair, studying Elijah with renewed interest. "You understand," he said quietly, "that this facility exists to protect people, sometimes from themselves, sometimes from others. Elijah held his gaze. And sometimes, Holloway added, from scrutiny. Elijah realized then that the note had been found, or worse, taken seriously. The inspection came suddenly. No warning, no preparation. External reviewers arrived with authority Ravenscroft could not deflect. Files were requested in full. Recordings demanded. Staff interviewed separately. Holloway remained composed. But the institution faltered. Discrepancies surfaced quickly. Logs failed to align. Reports contradicted raw data. Audio recordings told stories that paperwork had buried. Patients spoke cautiously at first, then more openly. And once the silence broke, it did not stop. Elijah was removed from Ravenscroft under protective custody, transferred to a separate facility while investigations unfolded. He was not declared cured. He was not declared free. But for the first time, his confinement had an endpoint. Mara was transferred as well. Others followed. Ravenscroft did not shut down immediately. Institutions like it rarely do. But leadership changed. Oversight tightened. Policies rewritten under public pressure. Dr. Marcus Holloway resigned quietly. No charges were filed against him. Not enough evidence, they said. Just enough to ensure he would never hold that position again. Elijah eventually left institutional care under strict conditions, carrying a record that would follow him for life. Freedom was not clean. It was cautious, conditional, but it was real. He often thought about Ravenscroft, about how close he had come to disappearing completely, about how many others never made it far enough to be heard. The doors at Ravenscroft still exist. They still open. They still close. But now, somewhere in the system, there is a record of what happened inside. And that matters, because the most dangerous places are not the ones that look cruel. They are the ones that promise help, demand trust, and quietly decide who is allowed to leave.